Have you ever wondered how a company like Netflix takes all that viewing data from millions of us and somehow figures out exactly what show we want to watch next? Well, that whole complex automated process is what we're going to break down today. And we're going to do it by looking at one of the most important tools in the industry, Azure Data Factory. Let's jump in. So here's the challenge for pretty much any modern business, right? You've got data everywhere. It's in different places, it's messy, and it's coming in all the time. The real trick isn't just having the data, it's building a solid system to move it, clean it up, and actually make sense of it all. So how on earth do they do it?
Well, the answer is they build a factory. Yep, a factory. But not one with smokestacks and loud machinery. We're talking about a digital factory, one that runs entirely in the cloud. It's this super automated system that's designed to take in all that raw data as its material, refine it, and then produce something truly valuable. And honestly, this data factory idea is the best way to understand how all of this works.
And in the world of Microsoft Azure, that digital factory has a specific name, Azure Data Factory, or what you'll often hear called ADF. So let's take a look at what this factory is really designed to do. Okay, so at its very core, Azure Data Factory is a data integration service. Its whole job is to automate the workflows that move and reshape data. Now you're going to hear these acronyms thrown around, ETL and ELT. ETL just means you extract data, transform it to clean it up, and then load it where it needs to go. ELT is a bit more modern. You extract it, load it raw into a big, powerful system, and then you transform it. ADF is the thing that orchestrates, that manages both of those processes.
And this is a really important point to get. ADF is not a database. It doesn't actually store any of your data. Think of it more like the factory's control room and all the conveyor belts. It runs the whole show, but the raw materials and the finished goods, they all live in other places and different storage systems.
You know, every factory needs its tools and machinery, right? Well, in Azure Data Factory, these tools come in the form of a few key components, or building blocks. If you understand these, you can pretty much build anything. So let's look at the tools for the job.
First things first, your factory needs to be connected to the outside world. That's what a linked service is. Just think of it like a secure connection string. It's the information that tells ADF how to go and access something else, like a database or a storage account. It's basically the power line and the delivery truck route for your factory.
So once you're connected to a source with that linked service, you then define a data set. The data set is like the blueprint for the specific data you're planning to use. It doesn't hold the data itself, it just points to it and says, hey, the data looks like this. It's a table with these columns, or it's this specific CSV file.
All right, now we get to the real heart of the operation, the pipeline. A pipeline is the actual assembly line. It's the logical group of all your tasks, defining the entire workflow from beginning to end. So, for example, you could have a pipeline named something like Daily Sales Data Load, and inside of it are all the steps needed to get that job done. And within that assembly line, that pipeline, you have your individual workstations. In ADF, these are called activities. Each activity does one specific thing. It might copy data, or transform it, or run a piece of code. It's like the single robotic arm on the assembly line that has one very specific job to do.
Now, of all the different activity you can use, there's one that is the foundation for almost everything you'll ever do. So let's zoom in on the most fundamental tool in the entire factory, the copy data activity.
Its job is so simple, but don't let that fool you. It is incredibly powerful. All it does is take data from a place you define as a source, and it copies it to a place you define as a sink, which is just a fancy word for destination. That's it. But I'm telling you, almost every single data process you can imagine starts with this one simple action.
And setting this up is a really logical four-step process. First, you just point to your source and sink data sets. You're just defining where the data comes from and where it's going. Then you handle the mapping, which is literally just telling ADF how to line up the columns from the source to the destination. And finally, you execute the pipeline to kick the whole assembly line into motion.
But here's where the real power comes in the details. You can build in fault tolerance, which is amazing. It means a few bad rows of data won't crash your entire job that's been running for hours. For performance, you can tell ADF to copy in parallel, which can drastically speed up huge data transfers. And maybe most importantly, you can do incremental loads. That just means the pipeline only copies what's new or what's changed since the last time it ran, which is way more efficient. Okay, so we've seen all the individual tools. Now let's see how they all come together on the factory floor. Here's a look at what a really common, real-world data pipeline looks like when it's up and running. This is a classic, powerful workflow you'll see all the time.
So, we start at the source, raw data sitting on a company's internal server. First, a copy activity ingests that data, just pulling it into a central data lake. Next, a transform activity, maybe a data flow, gets to work cleaning it, reshaping it, and making it better. And finally, we load that nice, clean data into a high-performance analytics engine like Azure Synapse. That's where it's ready for business reports and dashboards.
And that's really the essence of modern data engineering. This pipeline methodically takes messy, raw information and turns it into a clean, structured, valuable asset. This is how businesses build those scalable systems that actually power real-world insights.
Okay, so now that you've got the blueprint, let's talk about a few pro tips. You can think of these as the key lessons that any experienced factory manager learns over time to make sure everything is running smoothly and efficiently.
Here are 4 habits you'll see from every top-tier beta engineer. First, parameterize everything. Trust me, hard-coding file names or server names is a rookie mistake. Using variables makes your pipelines reusable and so much easier to maintain. Second, automate with triggers. A factory should run on its own schedule, not because you have to press a button. Third, get really familiar with the monitoring view. It's your control room, and it's where you'll spot problems before they become disasters. And finally, set up logging and alerting. You want the factory to tell you when something's wrong, not the other way around.
So that's Azure Data Factory in a nutshell. It's this incredibly powerful tool for orchestrating the flow of data. From all the individual components to a complete automated assembly line, you now have the blueprint. The factory's built. So the only question left is, what are you going to create first?